We talk often about being people who pay attention, who observe rightly, to be people who notice and who see. I happen to believe that's the reason Jesus goes around healing eyes so much in the New Testament. Of course, it was for the sake of the literal blind, but I think it's for our sake too, so that we know that deepened spirituality is about observing well. But that gets harder to do when we're under stress, such as the stress we're under now in a global pandemic. We tend to not notice everything, but focus mostly on negative, focus on what could be a threat. There's something that some people refer to as the magic ratio, the 5-to-1 magic ratio, and this comes from the John Gottman Institute of Marriage. And they noticed, doing research even back in the 70s, that they were able to observe couples and predict with a high degree of accuracy how that couple was going to, how they were going to be doing just 10 years later. They would put these couples in a situation where they were tasked with solving one of their relationship problems inside of 15 minutes. Then they would watch this tape of them talking and interacting, and with 90% accuracy, they were able to determine whether that couple was even still together a decade later. And it came down to several things, but this ratio is a way of framing it. They were able to recognize that if a couple has a proper ratio of positive interaction to negative interaction, if they have that balance, not 1-to-1, 1-to-1 is actually not very good, 5-to-1 positive over negative, then that was a great marker for healthy relating and a healthy relationship and a healthy marriage. And so there are lots of different ways that we can be negative to each other. Some of us don't realize, because it means a little bit different, different things and a different intensity depending on our personality. But an eye roll is a very negative interaction. It's a physical communication, it's body language that signals contempt, that what you're saying or what you're sharing or even who you are lacks worth. The John Gottman Institute talks about the 4 horsemen, when we talk about being critical, when we tear each other down versus dealing with issues, contempt, where we try to communicate less worth in the other, defensiveness, when we don't take responsibility but we immediately try to put blame back on the other when something is pointed out, and then what they call stonewalling, when we refuse to be available anymore, we tune out, we're maybe physically present but we've just stopped caring. These positive interactions to counter the negative interactions are really simple, and it's a way that we work to get that balance back, the 5-to-1 positive to negative ratio. And so if the negatives can be simple as body language, it can be when we're being critical or when we have contempt or disgust. When we put the other down, when we make ourselves unavailable because, you know what, we just don't care right now. We just don't have the energy for that. Those mount up, and that escalates the negative dimensions of our relationship. And so we have to do the work of being positive with each other. And so what does that look like? It can be as simple as looking your spouse, your partner, in the eye. And even if it's not interesting to you, to be interested in what they're interested in. And when they have something going wrong in their life, versus trying to fix it or defend against it, to actually affirm it. Physical touch means different things to different people. And sometimes you have a couple where one person very much communicates with physical touch and the other one just doesn't think about touching. Or a lot of moms get touched out by their kids. But physical touch is a way that we can communicate something positive to each other. To be an affirming listener when you're listening, to look away from your phone, eye contact, nod, say yes, ask questions. Empathy, to really try to feel and understand what your partner is experiencing. On and on and on. There are ways of being positive toward the other with your words and your facial expressions and your body language, that what it does is that it erases the negative accumulation of interaction that is definitely happening right now in such a stressful season. So I highly recommend trying to ignore the dog barking 2 houses down. See, there's a lot of positive things. There's birds chirping, the sun's out, it's a beautiful day. But that dog is getting on my nerves. Good 5-to-1 ratio happening right now as I film this. Keep a log. Maybe write it down for a couple days too. to experiment and to highlight in your own life how many positive communications, not measuring your partner, but yourself, how many positive communications am I working on to communicate? How many kind things am I saying? How much respect and recognition and reassurance am I offering my partner? How often do I square my shoulders and look them in the eye and listen? How often when they're telling me something's going wrong, do I not try to fix it, but I just try to understand? I don't defend, but I take responsibility. Write those down. Give yourself a pat on the back once it gets to about 5 to 1. But if you're noticing, it's like for every nice thing we say, we pick on each other. There's contempt. We tear each other down. There's too much teasing. There's too much defensiveness. Pay attention to that, because it's within your power oftentimes. It's harder now in this season than it's been in a long time, but it's within our power to change that ratio and get it back to more positive than negative. I hope that's helpful. I'm gonna go deal with this dog.